Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Now MLB, local experts weighing in on the biggest stories in baseball. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. We've got our Locked On MLB host here to recap all of the action for you from yesterday. The Chicago White Sox inched closer to the division lead in yesterday's biggest game.
The biggest games, the best performances, expert analysis. You are Locked On Now.
It's one in the AL Central got even closer on Monday as the Chicago White Sox picked up a win over the Kansas City Royals. Now just a couple of games off the pace in the division. Locked On White Sox recaps the win on the South Side.
The biggest game.
A close race for the AL Central lead got even closer on Monday as the Chicago White Sox picked up a win over the Kansas City Royals. Now just a couple of games off pace in the division. Locked On White Sox recaps the win on the South Side.
It was a new day and a new offense for the Chicago White Sox as they beat the Kansas City Royals 9-2 on Tuesday night, and now are only 2 games back in the AL Central. Sox had 14 hits and were able to get a couple home runs. Jose Abreu and Gavin Sheets, Eloy Jimenez with 4 RBIs, and Andrew Vaughn with his first career triple. The Sox go for the series win Wednesday afternoon as they send Lance Lynn to the hill on the South Side.
The Houston Astros picked up a few pieces at the deadline and used them in trying to come back against the Red Sox on Tuesday. Didn't quite work out, though. Locked On Astros is in to tell you why.
The Houston Astros fall short to the Boston Sox once again. They're on a 2-game losing streak after Jose Altuve led off the game with a double. Yuli Gurriel knocked him in. The Astros went up 1-0 early. It looked like this would be one of those games. Well, the Red Sox pitching would have something to say about that. And where was Trey Mancini? And where was Vasquez? Well, they were on the bench waiting for their turn, waiting for Dusty to call them up. Will Smith shows up mid-game. In the 6th inning, Javier gives up a solo shot to Devers, which he gawks at for about a good 7 to 8 seconds. Didn't settle well with the Astros, but that's okay. They said, let's go back and get this. In the 9th inning, they sat Maldonado and Myers and sent Christian Vasquez and Trey Mancini to the plate. It just didn't happen today. No special moments. The Astros fall 2-1 to the Boston Red Sox. They look to take at least one game from this series where Christian Vasquez will get his first start as catcher. We're yet to see if Mancini will start, but the Astros will look to continue their quest for a World Series title. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, Apple, Google, or Spotify. Remember, we are your team every day. Go Stros.
Baltimore Orioles got rid of a big bat in the lineup by trading Trey Mancini to the Astros, but Baltimore's offense hasn't skipped a beat in the 2 games after that. Locked On Orioles and Locked On Rangers take us through the final in Arlington.
Another win for the Orioles, as the offense makes light work of Texas pitching once again in this one. And this lineup leading the Orioles to a 2-0 record since trading Trey Mancini, but they went off on Tuesday night in Texas. How about Terrin Vavra? His best game as a pro so far, 3 walks and a single. And how about Jorge Mateo with 2 homers in this game for the Orioles? A 2-homer game for Jorge Mateo. Jordan Lyles pitched very well into the 7th inning. The O's put together a really nice looking win in Texas. And hey, you know what? I've talked about this week about how, I was worried that the trades of, a guy like Mancini and a guy like Lopez would maybe lead to, a little bit of a slump for the Orioles. Hopefully they're happily proving me wrong with back-to-back wins over Texas. I'll recap it all coming up on Wednesday's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
Coming up, the Angels starter got traded before the game, but LA was able to figure something out just in time. This is Locked On Now, MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Now is brought to you by Bet Online, the #1 spot for all of your online sports gambling needs. Definitely want to get in on the action with Major League Baseball hitting their second half of the season. Of course, NFL is right around the corner. Just head over to betonline.net. Bet Online, where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Now MLB. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. The Angels needed to find a starter on short notice, and the replacement got the job done in Tuesday's best performance.
The best performance.
Hold up.
The Angels lost their pitcher who was supposed to start on Tuesday just hours before game time, as Noah Syndergaard is headed to Philly. LA scrapped together a new strategy on short notice and were able to pick up the win. Locked On Angels has more after the victory.
Well, Tuesday was the trade deadline, and the Angels traded Brandon Marsh, Noah Syndergaard, and Raisel Iglesias, and then they had to go out and face the Oakland A's at home. And they came away with a victory, 3-1. Hey, everybody, it's Mike Frisch, one half of Locked On Angels. And the Angels did what you're supposed to do when you face last-place teams. They beat them, but not by too much. It was just 3-1, but they had just enough offense and some really great pitching. On the offensive side, David Fletcher is back. He hit a home run. He was batting leadoff. And then on the pitching side, Jose Suarez was on the mound. He had to fill in for Noah Syndergaard, who was traded to the Phillies earlier in the day. And so Phil Nevin went to Suarez and says, "You're up." And he came through. He went 5 innings, struck out 5, got the win, looked great. And then it came to the 9th inning, and who's going to close for us? Well, the Angels bring in Jose Quijada, and he pitches a clean 9th inning and gets his 2nd save of the season. On Wednesday, Shohei's on the mound, and so all eyes will be on Anaheim, and all ears will be on Locked On Angels, where John and I are going to talk about all the trades and all of the Angels news that you need. So we hope you'll join us, and we'll see you soon.
The Colorado Rockies were the only team in baseball to not make a move at the trade deadline, and Colorado followed that up with a pair of losses in a doubleheader in San Diego. Our Locked On Rockies host was not happy after a day of watching losing baseball and watching every other team make a deadline deal.
Rock on Rockies fans, Paul Holden here from the Locked On Rockies podcast. Well, Rockies fans were treated to an abysmal day. The Rockies stand pat and do nothing at the deadline and claim that they are who they are and that they're the only team that re-signed a player when that wasn't the case. The front office continues to disappoint the Rockies. The play on the field also is disappointing from the Rockies. The Rockies have now lost 3 in a row to the Padres as they lose another doubleheader, as a hit parade in the first game and a bottom of the 9th walk-off win for the Padres sinks this Colorado Rockies team on a day that was honestly very, very tough to call yourself a Colorado Rockies fan. The team certainly is lacking a direction. It's lacking accountability and ownership in the front office, and it's really a tough day to say that you are a Colorado Rockies fan. But hey, you know what? We still love the team, and we'll be breaking it down all season long right here on Locked On Rockies.
The San Francisco Giants did not have the best deadline day either. San Fran lost on the field last night after watching division rivals get better with trades. And that combination has our Locked On Giants host feeling uneasy about the future of the season.
Giants get roughed up by the Dodgers again, and it's arguable that they lost a second time today at the trade deadline. Ben Kaspick with the Locked On Giants podcast. They just continue to get beat up by LA. They got swept in a 4-game series to start the second half. This is another 4-game series, and they've lost the first 2, and it hasn't really been close, and the Dodgers are just pounding the Giants right now. And then at the trade deadline, this Giants team that seemingly has a pretty large, that's an understatement, talent gap between themselves and the Dodgers. And how about also the Padres, who went out and got Juan Soto today, and adding to a team that was already pretty loaded and ahead of the Giants this season at least. And the Giants didn't buy, nor did they really sell. They made some fine moves, I thought, but they didn't upgrade the defense. They didn't upgrade the bullpen, and they didn't sell their biggest piece in Carlos Rodon. They didn't really sell anybody. They didn't have a lot to sell, but they didn't make a franchise-altering move of any kind at this deadline. And it seems like the team needs to be altered, whether it's to improve or to take a step backwards by selling a Rodon and replenishing your, young talent. But they didn't do that. And so we're kind of stuck in purgatory with this Giants team. So we'll break this down on tomorrow's Locked On Giants, where it's your team every day. And by the way, rest in peace, Vin Scully. We lost him tonight. Thinking about Vin and everyone who loved Vin, and pretty much everyone in baseball did. So thinking about Vin tonight.
The Chicago Cubs did not make as many moves as expected on deadline day, and they didn't do much on the field later either. Locked On Cubs tells you the story of an uneventful day for Chicago.
Another lifeless, pathetic effort from the Cubs today. They get shut out once again, 6-0 by the Cardinals. A very eventful day for the Cubs in all the wrong reasons. Everybody kind of thought it was a guarantee they were going to trade Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ. They didn't. It was a very weird day to be a Cubs fan. I think I could speak for most people on that. I think some people feel good that they didn't trade him. Some people feel bad that they didn't trade him. But tonight's game just felt weird from the beginning, and it was weird. The Cardinals dominated. Adam Wainwright has had the Cubs number for a while now, and that continued. Keegan Thompson had his first really bad outing in a long time, and the Cubs offense has found itself here in a little bit of a funk with Horner and Suzuki and Happ all struggling at the same time. So not a great day overall for the Cubs. We'll see if they can bounce back tomorrow evening at Busch Stadium.
That's all for today on Locked On Now MLB. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you go check out Locked On MLB and your team's Locked On podcast, especially for the second half of this MLB season. I'm Kanani Stevens. This has been Locked On Now.